Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Exploring Oceans by the Seat of Your Pants. Many of you know that we are celebrating our ocean this week with 50 events with leading scientists, explorers, adventurers, and conservationists all around the world who work to research, learn about, and protect and explore our oceans. So it's been a great week so far with 11 events yesterday. We've got another 10 today and many more to finish the week. Really excited for today's hangout, though. We're hanging out with Ben Kneppers. He's the co-founder of Bureo Inc., an emerging company operating between Chile and California, focused on creating innovative solutions to ocean plastic pollution. So through the team's initiative, Net Positiva, they've created Chile's first fishnet collection and recycling program, and they're turning those nets into products like skateboards, sunglasses, and more. So Ben, it is so great to have you joining us again to celebrate our ocean.
Great. Thanks, Joe, for this opportunity. Hello, everybody. I'm going to just share my screen here. So can you guys see the presentation?
We've got it. Looks good. Okay, great.
All right. Well, hello from South America. I'm calling in from Sao Paulo, Brazil right now. I am one of the co-founders of a company called Bureo. We operate between California and Chile, where we are focused on creating positive solutions for ocean plastic pollution. Today, I just want to give you guys a bit of a background on what we did, but really to let you guys know, this all just started with just a group of friends. My friends, David, Kevin, and I, we love the ocean. We love surfing. We love spending all of our free time around it. And the three of us, through all of our travels and all of our experience, we kept coming across this problem of ocean plastic pollution. And you can see in this wave, it's quite unfortunate. This was a real photograph taken in Indonesia, where this problem is growing every year, where now they're saying that it's equivalent to one garbage truck of plastic trash is entering our ocean every minute. Can you imagine that picture dropping off in these beautiful waterways full of this plastic trash happening every minute? And if these things continue and we don't change anything, they're saying by the year 2050, with all the fish we're having out in the sea, we're actually going to have more plastic in the ocean than fish. So with all these problems, we thought, just the three friends and I, my two friends and I, what if we could do something about this? Everything is saying it's such a problem, but what if we could do something and transform this whole problem into a positive solution? And what we got thinking about was all this stuff is plastic, and plastics are recyclable. And when you recycle something, you can make it into a new resource that then you can do something with again. And that's when we landed on this idea, what if we could transform this harmful plastic pollution before it ends up in the ocean with communities along the coast, and by recycling it, we can transform it into new positive products. And by making positive products, we can shine a light on this problem and say, hey guys, there's solutions out here. But not only that, we can do it in a way that can generate funds, that can support these communities along the coast that don't have the help, and grow this program to more and more areas around the world. So with all the different types of plastic that are ending up in the ocean, we obviously had to realize we couldn't tackle it all. And when we looked into the problem, the fact that there's 8 million tons of plastic pollution entering our ocean every year, 10% of that is discarded fishing nets. You can see here an unfortunate circumstance that happens all the time when a net gets lost at sea, where nets are now found to be the most harmful form of ocean plastic because its ability to continue fishing after it's being left in the ocean, where it unfortunately comes in contact ultimately with marine life like the sea turtle, marine ecosystems like coral reefs, where they can then trap and endanger these very precious areas and these very precious marine animals. So when we looked into this problem of discarded fishing gear, why are these fishing nets ending up out in the ocean? A lot of the times, it's not the fault of the fishermen. It's the reality is when you are finished with your, let's say your product and you no longer have a use for it, you normally have a waste bin or ideally a recycling bin that you can bring it to. In the case of many fishermen, this is not available to them. So with the support from World Wildlife Fund and the Chilean government, we set up a program called Net Positiva, which is Chile's first ever fishing net collection and recycling program. So now when fishermen get into that situation where they have a net that's broken, it's no longer able to be used for fishing, they don't have to have the choice of discarding it in the ocean or the marine environment, but instead, by working together with us, we can provide them the opportunity to return it with us, where we can employ teams of local workers to prepare those nets so that we can recycle it again. And when we recycle that material again, it's now of same form as all other types of plastic that can be used again to make new positive products. And as Joe already gave away, and rightfully so, our first product we ever made was a plastic cruiser skateboard. Right here. We thought, why not make the funnest product that we could grow up with? And for us, it was a plastic cruiser skateboard. So now that skateboard, known as the minnow, as its form of a small fish, is preventing more than 30 square feet of recycled fishing nets, of fishing nets from ending up in the ocean. And so through our work of Net Positiva, we partner directly with the fishermen where we give them these disposal points. Just like you have your aluminum can and you're done using it and you have your recycle bin, we now are giving these fishermen the recycling bins for their fishing nets. They drop their nets off when they meet their end of life, which we then can train local workers to collect all those nets together. You can see our team here. We're standing on over 15,000 kilograms of fishing nets. That's over 30,000 pounds that we've just collected in a matter of a month, where we're now giving all these teams of workers job opportunities and creating a solution for these end-of-life fishing nets. When they collect those fishing nets, we sort them and we hang them to make sure they're clean, and then we wash them to make sure they're free of any other materials, any other salts, sand, any other debris. Then when they're ready, we pack them into these bales, we load them into a truck, and we send them to be recycled. So all those bales there you can see, that's all those fishing nets. That's over 15,000 kilos of fishing nets. When it gets to the recycler, you can see we've got the net here, the bales being made, they get shredded, so basically torn up into these small pieces, and then by melting them down and extruding them, we can get them back to these nice little pellets. And these pellets, again, are the same form of virgin plastic. So now we can start figuring out ways to use the material again. And just like a waffle is being made, we can make those new products. So I'm sure all of you guys have had a chance to make waffles, all right? If you haven't, I highly recommend it. It's lots of fun. You make your fresh batter and you have your waffle iron. And in our case, our waffle iron is the shape of our product. So for our case, we have this nice skateboard mold to make our skateboard. So we melt the plastic down to make it a liquid just like that waffle batter. And by putting it into the mold, just like we make our waffles, the skateboard comes out. And that's what we started with. We made the first skateboard ever over 4 years ago from recycled fishing nets. But what we started to discover is there's way more fishing nets out there that we need to collect and reuse than there are for us to make skateboards. So with that, we started to think of more ideas, of more things we can make with the material. Now we've launched an office chair, so people can now be sitting in a chair made from recycled fishing nets. We have Jenga Ocean, the Jenga game set that's normally made from wood. We now made from 100% recycled fishing nets. So you can actually play this game that's made from material prevented from entering the ocean. In addition, we made a line of sunglasses that I'll show you guys later that are now a way of going out and enjoying the ocean while doing something that's protecting it. And as us being surfers, we made a line of surfboard fins, because surfboard fins are also made from plastic. So now, by taking the plastic from the fishing nets and putting it in the surfboard fins, you can go out and enjoy the ocean in a way that is also protecting it. So with this, as we're growing, we're partnering with more and more of these fishing communities where our goal is to provide this solution for end-of-life fishing nets to every fishery in need, where we can work together with fishermen that don't have the alternative to do an environmentally sound way of disposing of their nets at their end of life. We can then give them this opportunity to give the nets back to us. We can recycle them. We can make new positive products for people to enjoy. And with the money from that, we can continue growing this program and creating more support for coastal communities. So where I want to leave things off and where I want to open the discussion with you guys now is we're only dealing with one type of plastic pollution in the ocean. There's lots of other things out there. So what we need to turn to is you guys. We need more big ideas. We need to come up with more positive solutions to overcome this problem. So I'm here today with you guys so we can have that discussion. Let's think of more solutions, and so we can really overcome this problem, because it is solvable. If we can all come together and do our part, we can really help the oceans and make the oceans a plastic-free, beautiful place that it's meant to be. So I'm going to stop there and open it up to you guys for questions.
All right, Ben. Well, thanks so much for sharing with us, sharing the story and just what you're up to. It really is pretty awesome, and I like that it's a story with friends. You started with your friends, and you built this together, and it really is making a huge difference and growing so much, even in just a year since we last had a hangout. So congratulations, very exciting. And then
thanks.
If you want to come back, just hit the green button one more time and you'll be back with us.
Okay.
There we go.
We're back.
We got you.
And I've got the new sunglasses for everybody.
Oh, very cool. I like them. Okay, so let's meet some classrooms, because I know there's definitely going to be some questions out there. So we're going to take a trip to New Jersey first. We have Mrs. Finn's grade 4 group in Freehold, New Jersey with us today. Let me turn their mic on. How are we doing, grade 4s?
Say hi.
Hi.
It's actually grade 5. We are grade 5.
Perfect.
5th grade. Yeah, I think we had some changes. So thank you.
That's
Very interesting, cool stuff.
Happy to have anyone. All right, go ahead and fire away.
You guys have any questions? Oh, do we have questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Andrew.
Where can we buy the products?
Where can you buy the products? Well, you can buy them on our website. You can go to bureo.co, so bureo.co. And also you can go and learn a lot more about our program and to help the marine environment.
All right, perfect. I had a feeling that question might come up because they're pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff, even Frisbees and stuff. And I think you can also find them too at some Patagonia stores. Some have them too. I think some of the Frisbees. All right, very cool. We're going to swing back. We're going to visit our grade 5s again, but we're going to jump to San Antonio, Texas this time. Mrs. Sullivan's group, their grade 11 class joining us. How's it going, San Antonio?
All right.
All right.
So,
Front this down here with a question. Okay, go ahead.
what is one of the biggest obstacles that you've had to overcome within this business?
Wow, yeah, that's a great question. So I would have to say every day is a challenge when you're creating something entirely new. But I would say the bigger one for us is we set up the program in Chile. And we are 3, as we're known as gringos from North America. And it took us a lot to have to create a supply chain from nothing and create a whole entirely new program that got the fishermen to change the way they were acting and operating, and get them to trust in us and in a way that we could work together. And really, that's all about taking the time and effort and really showing your commitment to what you say you're going to do, and really follow through with it. So when we were on the ground in Chile and really demonstrating that this program works, and that we could compensate fairly for this material and give them the resources they needed, it was a really great achievement for us. But when we really had a great breakthrough was when we got to come back with those first products and said, this was your fishing nets. And then it suddenly became a source of pride for the fishermen, where we could really make a deeper connection with it. And that's really where we saw the program get much further. But as you can imagine, being a startup company, every day it brings new challenges.
That's awesome. And that's a great point too, is I'm sure there were times when things weren't going right and it would have been easier to give up, but you guys kept going, and look what you've done. All right. Thanks for the question. We'll come visit you guys again. We're going to go to Mrs. Zimmerman's grade 6s in Milton, Ontario. So here in Canada, let me turn their microphone on. How are we doing, grade 7s?
Hi.
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 Two-part question, if that's okay. When you first told people about your plans to create an organization for plastic solutions, how did people around you react? Did they doubt you or believe in you and help you?
That's a great question. I mean, I think the powerful thing about plastic pollution is it's a problem that not a lot of people would argue with, because we have all seen it affect our environments. We've seen it in our communities. It's not a pretty thing to see plastic trash in the environment. So with that, we got an incredible amount of support. We got support from the Chilean government, from the fishermen, from the recyclers. And if we didn't have that, we could have never accomplished what we set out to accomplish. Now, at the same time, there was many people that were also very skeptical, to think that we could come in, we could not only work with fishermen in another language and in a program that was never set up before, but not only that, also make a product that's quite unique, a plastic skateboard. But as mentioned before, when we got to show those results, it really was a big breakthrough for us, and got everyone to even support us even more.
That's amazing. And my part 2 is, who first introduced you to helping the planet and getting rid of plastic in the ocean, and in what way did they impact you to get into saving the planet?
Wow, that's a great question. I think I'll do my best to give you a simple answer, because that's a very deep question. But I was studying engineering in my university because I had a really good ability for math and science, and that really interested me. And I thought it would be a good foundation. But it wasn't until I traveled, and I got to travel to many places around the world, from Europe to Africa to Asia, and I was starting to see the problem firsthand. And when I got to meet people in the communities and understand firsthand how problems like plastic pollution was affecting them directly, it was really my first time to realize that this is a real problem. But not only that, with the skill sets I learned in school, that there were opportunities to make a solution.
All right, great questions. Let's go to Virginia Beach this time. We have some grade 5s joining us with Mrs. Presley. Let me turn their microphone on. How are we doing, grade 5s?
Okay, go ahead. I'm Latrina, and I have one question for you guys. Do you guys have any fears of making the products?
Fears of making the products? That's an interesting question. I mean, I guess the fears we have when we make the product is we want to make sure, first and foremost, it's not just about being a recycled product, but it's a great product, and it's a product that's going to last a long time, and that people are going to really enjoy it, and it's going to work really well. Because if we were to make something that was going to be used once and then thrown in the trash, it kind of defeats the purpose of us doing all the stuff we're doing. So I guess the big fear for us is to make sure that we're making a really great product. And we would be fearful that if we didn't, then we could actually be turning people off from recycling and turning people off from what we're trying to do.
All right, great question and a great answer, because you're absolutely right. We are such a single-use society sometimes. You got to think about what they're going to hold on to, what they're going to use, what they're going to value. And so far, the products are pretty good, like an office chair. You can use that all the time. All right, awesome. Let's go to, we haven't visited Mrs. Brown's class, grade 11s in San Antonio, Texas. Let me turn their microphone on. All right, you're on.
All right. So is your company actually planning on retrieving any of the plastic from the ocean?
Yes. So the way our program works is we primarily obviously focus on the stuff before it ends up in the ocean, because that's where the lion's share of it's ending up. But the way our model works is there's two levels to it. If you're an artisanal fisherman, so a smaller scale fisherman that really depends on the financial income from his work, we pay them directly for the nets. But in the case of big commercial fisheries, the ones that have huge amounts of fishing nets and huge infrastructure, they don't necessarily need the financial resources to be paid for returning their nets. So instead, we have an agreement that money is then used to be donated back to the communities that are most affected by plastic pollution. And with that money, we're able to address other issues where we can work with divers to go out and collect nets. We can work on improving the waste management system. We can work with the primary schools on educating them about the environment in their area. And those are all things that we're working on now. So every pound of fishing that we receive from a commercial fishery, we donate money to local NGOs that are then using that money to address the issues that aren't so cost effective, but are really important, like getting plastic pollution out of the ocean.
All right, thanks for that question. Great question. And that's such a good point is, there's the recycling side of it, but working with the community, giving back and getting back in there is such an important piece too. You really are closing the loop. And then finally, we have Mrs. Kronecki's group in Colchester, Connecticut. They're joining us. I'll just need you to turn the microphone on for me, and then we'd love a question. There they are.
What do you think of the rumor about little bits of plastic being in water bottles?
Like
Yeah.
That's a good question, is about microplastics. So microplastic is an issue that is people are finding out more and more is showing up everywhere. And it's something that when you have clothing that's made of plastic, every time you wash it, small particles of plastic, which are becoming known as microplastic, are then being washed out with the water that was used to wash your clothes, and it's ending up in our waterways. And so we're finding it they're finding traces of it in marine animals and shellfish, and also since the water is water that we're drinking, traces of it in the water that we drink in bottled water. I have not done any research on it personally, but it is something that is worth looking into. And I think in general, if you can focus on getting water from a reusable bottle, you're going to be ensured that you're going to be doing a much better solution for this problem, whereas bottled water is a single item that you're going to use, and then at best you'll recycle, but for one single use, it's really not worth it. And instead, if you can get water from a filtered source in a reusable water bottle, you're much more likely to avoid this issue.
And to some of our classes who are joining us who are near the Great Lakes, they're even finding traces and large amounts of microplastics in the Great Lakes. So it makes its way even into the other waterways, not just the ocean. So it really is a big problem, and it's getting hard to find a spot in the ocean where you can take a sample and not find plastic. So that's kind of scary. All right.
Are we back up?
He muted himself.
Oh, yeah, I think you guys are, Joe, you're on mute.
Whoops, I muted myself instead of you guys. Okay, you're on, Mrs. Finn's class.
Oh, okay. We have another question from.
What can we do as students to help?
Great question. I think there's a lot of things you can do. The big one is encouraging the use of reusable items. So any plastic item that we use once, there's a problem there. And so the first thing you can do is avoid single-use plastic items. So your plastic water bottles, your plastic cutlery, anything that's plastic that you use once, there's normally alternatives that are reusable that can last much longer, are going to ultimately produce a lot less waste. From there, the next thing you can work on is intercepting. So that's about collecting the plastic. There's lots of great things you can do in your community, like organizing cleanups, where you can collect any plastic that you're seeing in your area. Obviously, it's good to have an adult around to make sure you're managing the material correctly. But organizing group events like that is not only good for the environment, but it's also something that's going to create a lot of awareness and make people realize how much is actually ending up in the area. And then the last one is about creating a system, making sure that you guys have the right solution when the plastic does become at its end of life. So that's about recycling. So making sure your schools have recycling in place so that when there are plastics, when there are other materials, that everyone does have that option to recycle it when it meets its end of life.
All right, another great question. We're going to go back to Texas to Mrs. Sullivan's class. You guys have another question. The mic's on.
Yes.
This is my little brother, and he wanted to ask this question.
What about plastic tables?
Plastic tables. So making recycling the fishing nets to make tables?
Yes.
That's a great idea. Yeah, I mean, I would love to see that happen. That's the great thing, is as much as plastic is a difficult material because it can be discarded so easily, it's also really great because it can be used in many ways. And I agree, I think that's a great idea. One of those ways could definitely be making a plastic table.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great idea.
All right, great share. Let's see, let's go to Milton again, to our grade 7, see if they have another question.
Hello. What was the feeling you had when you realized that you were helping our world and making an impact to our world? And what advice would you give to someone who also wanted to do something or start something?
That's a great question. Well, the long story short is it feels really great to know that you're working towards doing something really good for the world. And I mean, obviously, we're doing a very little piece of the puzzle, but that's what this is all about, is we're a part of a big movement. And the only way we can overcome these global problems is all of us choosing to do our part and finding a way to make the world a better place. So when it comes to how I came about it and how you can come about it is, number one, the most important thing is really work hard in school and get a really good education. Because everything you're learning right now in school are the tools that you're going to have on your tool belt that you're going to be ready to apply when you get out there. The next one is if you can take all those skill sets and connect it with your passion. So obviously, it seems like you guys are really passionate about doing something better for the world. And there's many ways that you can find out how to apply that. And so by taking all your education from school and then finding out world experiences that really captivate your passion, that's your way that you could finally connect those two, like we were able to find with Bureo, and make something that's going to not only utilize your abilities and your capabilities, but also be something that you can live out your passion every day. And that's what we feel with our work. It's very rewarding because we not only are using our engineering education, but we're also doing something that we're really passionate about, which is helping protect the ocean in our own little way.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Zimmerman's class. Let's see. Let's swing back to Virginia Beach. Your microphone's on.
Yeah. So if you didn't take out the nets, what animals would be at risk?
What animals would be at risk? I mean, that is there's a lot of animals. So we're mainly working in Chile, and there's a lot of sea life in Chile. So we've come across from whales to sea lions to birds, turtles in some cases, penguins in some parts of Chile. Very, very different types of marine life that could be very much vulnerable from being trapped by these nets if there wasn't if they were to be discarded in the environment.
All right, back to San Antonio, Texas. We're going to visit Mrs. Brown's class this time.
Hi, my name is Irvin, and I was wondering, how were you successfully able to kickstart your business?
Well, that you actually kind of answered the question with one of the words there. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Kickstarter, but in addition to the grant we got from the Chilean government, we when we had our first product ready, that first cruiser skateboard, we launched it on Kickstarter. So we basically told everyone what we were doing, which was we're trying to create the solution for this harmful form of ocean plastic. And by making it the skateboard, and we launched a Kickstarter campaign online. And we said, if you back us and raise the money we needed to help grow the business, we would give you one of the first skateboards we made. And it ended up being a really good success for us. And it also lets you prove that people really want to support the business that you're trying to create.
All right, and our final class, let's go back to Connecticut for one more question. If you guys want to, yeah, you just have to turn on the mic for me.
When you started your business, did you ever think that it was going to be this successful?
Well, I mean, I think every day it still feels like a very big challenge. But I guess, no, I don't think I did. I think it's great to always dream big, but when you really start to get the experience of something that's really starting to get into more products and the amount of material you get to see moving and how much nets there actually are out there, I guess in some ways, yeah, I would have never imagined it to get this big. But then again, once I started getting into it, then I could really envision how big this could get. So I would say after about a year into working on this, I did start to see the potential we could do to make this much bigger, because we first started with just trying to make skateboards. But then we started to see that it could get much, much bigger. But we still have a long, long way to go. And that's what we're hoping to set out and achieve by going to many more communities and collecting and recycling many more nets to help a lot more communities along the way.
All right. Thanks so much. Great question from Connecticut. We probably squeeze one more in before we wrap for today. So if someone's got a burning question, let me see a wave from a classroom and I'll come back over and we'll visit. So, all right, let's go to Mrs. Presley's group and maybe we'll sneak one more in, but we'll start with Virginia.
How much have you collected in nets?
So far, we have collected over 200 tons of fishing nets. So that's over 400,000 pounds of fishing nets. But to be honest, this is just the start. It's reported globally, there's over 600,000 tons. So that's 600 million pounds, 1.2 billion pounds, if I'm getting my math right, of fishing nets that are becoming discarded every year. So we have a lot more work to do, but it's been a really good start.
All right, and do we have one more question out there? All right, go ahead and turn your microphone on in Connecticut.
Have you ever considered expanding your business beyond Chile?
Yes. Yep. We've actually set up some collection in California. We've also been we're now working on going to Argentina and Peru, which are bordering Chile, and also have very active fishing industries, because really what we're trying to create is a program that we can bring to any fishing community that needs this kind of solution. And so ultimately, yes, we'd love to bring this all over the world.
All right. And I think it's definitely applicable and can be used in so many different communities all around the world. So there's definitely no end in supply. There's always going to be fishing. And I think the statistic is there's 3 times the amount of fishing power than we need for a planet our size. So there's lots of fishing net, unfortunately, going around. Well, Ben, I can't thank you enough. I love when you join in our hangouts. I think your project's so important, and you know, there's so much momentum right now, I think, starting to build with plastics in our ocean. So it's projects like yours that are making a big difference. So thank you for what you do, and thank you for hanging out with classrooms and sharing it with us.
My pleasure, and good luck to you guys. I hope you guys all find your own big ideas and be able to connect your educations with your passions and make it your life's work.
All right, excellent. And we do live in a great time where there's online funding and all sorts of other ways to meet people and start projects. So now's a good time. So boys and girls, your questions were awesome. Thank you so much, as per usual. I see someone holding up a recycling bin. So there we go. Yeah, recycling. It's important. I'm going to turn all the microphones on and give the classes a chance to say goodbye and thank you. But once again, Ben, thanks so much. So here we go, boys and girls. Microphone's coming on. Thanks again, everyone, for hanging out. Lots more events coming up this week. And yeah, continue celebrating oceans with us. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, everyone.